Angel, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Look at that guitar in the background. You gonna jam out for us here?
This is the Gringo bass. It's signed by the cast,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was like, I
Okay.
got to do something. George is a guitar player.
He's a guitar player. I've been on Zooms with George.
Yeah, a very good guitar player. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I needed this is my therapy. So I play bass as therapy, and I went to the
Uh-huh.
guitar center going crazy one night, and I saw this thing, and I go, that's it. That's the Gringo bass, the Grinch bass. And so I got that, and I got them all to sign it, and then we jammed a little bit on set. So that became so from now on, every movie I'm gonna get a color base and have it signed.
In a bass and the color is based on like the what the movie is, what the movie is
Well,
about.
if figured the Gringo Grinch,
See,
something or the
I
other.
I clearly wore green to talk some gringo,
Yeah,
and
there you
I'm
go.
I'm
Exactly.
half gringo, so why not? I whenever people ask me about my Spanish, my mother's from Guadalajara. When people ask me about my Spanish, and I grew up in Austin, I say I speak English. All right, I describe myself as a Texican, something like that, But out here in LA, George specifically, like we got Chicano. And when you've been on Zoom with George, I remember getting on a Zoom with George Geekscape. So I'm taking you a little bit behind the scenes of my own filmmaking and talking to George about projects. And I love George. And I saw him a few months ago on the picket line. We can talk about that stuff now. I
Yeah.
uh, I was nervous because I when I first moved to LA, I loved George as a Latino. I was a delivery guy delivering scripts to different places for post houses, this and that. And I delivered a script to George. I don't think I've ever told this story on the podcast Geekscape, but we're talking film here, and I got to know all about Angel and his journey from Spain to Miami and all this. But real quick, late one night, I had to deliver a script to George Lopez's house for a Christmas movie. It was a Christmas movie for a TV company called Von Zernick Sertner that makes TV movies. And one night I go out there and I'm like, yeah, he's not going to answer the door. He'll have somebody answer the door, right? It's George Lopez. He's got a TV show on. And he answers the door and looking up to him so long, you know, coming out of high school, college, this and that, and not many Latinos being in the industry, I pretty much threw the script at him and ran. And so and so fast forward to a few years ago, getting George like real behind the scenes for us Geekscape is here on the filmmaking versus the Geekscape that we do here. I get on a Zoom with George and my producer's not on it yet. The siren's telling me like, let's talk about your films, Jonathan, more about Angel. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. Uh, and I'd written a letter to George saying, hey, this is actually the second script I've given you, and this was the one I wrote. And and it meant a lot to me that he wanted to Zoom with me and possibly be in my film. And I remember getting on the Zoom with him, and my producer wasn't on there, and he just looks at you, and he can be intense, and he goes, "That was a beautiful script you wrote, man." So immediately, like that guitar you've got in the background, I'm calling you Angel or Angel, but I see this guitar, just like George. He's got a Lower Marion 33 jersey in the background. It's Kobe Bryant's high school jersey, and I can talk basketball with anybody. Like my like pitching tactic is to enter the offices and look for basketball, right? Because I can just BS and start
I
start.
latched onto his guitars. He had
Yeah,
Eddie Van
he's
Halen's
got
guitar.
he's got the Kiss stuff in the back, and he's got like all the like 70s rock stuff, early
Yeah.
80s rock stuff in the back. That's his lifeblood. But I went basketball, and then I went rock, and then we got into the talks, and we got talking to movies, and we traded emails a few weeks ago, and he's a wonderful guy. Well, did you have a similar experience bringing him onto this film? I mean, uh, talk about putting this thing together.
Yeah, I mean it was brief because it's also a man of few words, actually,
See,
surprisingly. I thought it'd be just very talkative and he just gets on and tells you a few things. Then he makes the funny faces that he makes.
mm-hmm.
And then you go, okay, that's my cue to like move on. And but I think it was simple because I think he identified himself with the character from the background culture and having his own daughter who one day brought home for not for Christmas, but brought home a surprise, which is her white boyfriend. And that was the conversation starter. And I think he just was like, oh yeah, I can do this, right? And so I think that's how he felt identified with it. And for me, it was a only choice really.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like being Jon Malkovich. You gotta have Jon Malkovich. This is almost like being, George Lopez's Gringo Stole Christmas. Gotta have the guy in the thing because of the character, the humor, the background, the whole experience is just really being a comedian, right? So you have an actor and a comedian built into one. This is really gold.
It's a real thing to Geekscape, is especially with Mexican Americans. Like y'all know my wife Heidi from watching the show or listening to the show, but her nickname in my in our circles is La Gringuita. Like I married La Gringuita, and it's a term of affection sometimes, but sometimes it's like a cultural demarcation, right? Like especially with a movie set like East LA, it's separated by the 5 here in Los Angeles. Geekscape is when you cross into East LA, it becomes very, very, very Chicano, and you can sense it, and the neighborhood changes, everything changes. And so I'll go ahead and, like, this is a remake almost of Look Who's Coming to Dinner, right? Like the classic sort of movie where kind of like a fish out of water comes to dinner, right?
Yeah, yeah, and also Meet the Parents in some
Meet the
way.
Parents. It's on Meet the yeah. It's Meet the Parents. Look Who's Coming to Dinner.
Look Who's Coming
The
from Dinner.
old
Yeah,
Sidney Poitier movie, and I think it's great to do it with like a Latino cast, because it's
yeah,
really been done white and African American
yeah.
and Caucasian, and here we got the Latino version of it. And I love it. And then mixing it with a Christmas movie, what is that all about? I mean, obviously we got the heavy Catholicism working on our side, but is it similar when, you know, obviously you spent time in the States and in Miami and this and that, but is it a similar type of approach when it's Hispanic, and then all of a sudden now you're taking in a Latino culture, right? And they're not the same Geekscapes, right? Like they're both Spanish speaking, but how much did you have to, like, you've been in LA, you've been in filmmaking, like how much did it take for you to kind of like entrench yourself in that culture and be able
Well,
to
when you
speak
live
the
in LA,
language?
you have to go through that because you see it everywhere. So now, if you're in New York, I used to live in New York, you'll have more of a East Coast,
Dominican,
Puerto Rican,
Puerto
Dominican
Rican, yeah,
combination, right, with Italian mix. And then if you're in Miami, I lived in Miami, so you got the Cuban heavy influence, a lot of South American. But in a way, uh, and if you're in Germany, you have the Turkish. I used to say those
for
are the
real.
Mexicans. Those are the Mexicans.
I say that about Armenians too. I say that to Armenian people. They're like, because they think I'm Armenian. And I said, no, guys, I'm Mexican. But there's so many similarities.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. But Geekscapists who aren't familiar, like, for real, we got our own grocery stores, we speak our own language, and we got like a huge sense of machismo. We all have facial hair by the time we're 12. Like it's very similar,
Yeah.
you know?
And for me, it's just basically being always myself a fish out of water. I can do this all day in any of those places. You just get to a town and find out who is that other culture that migrated there, that is accepted and not accepted. And I was saying this to a friend. It's like the closer we're together, we're quicker to find difference to criticize, right? So if you're in Spain, it's Barcelona, Madrid. If you're in Italy, it's Rome, Milan. If you're in the UK, well, it's the UK versus the Scots and the Irish. If you're in the US, it's East Coast, West Coast, South America. I mean, the quicker you see someone with a different accent, a different way of dressing, a different music, or right away criticize, right? But you don't criticize the ones you don't see, but they're there and they're going through the same experience. So to me, the Christmas is just the catalyst that almost forces the family together. We must do this at this particular time. It's a mandate, whether you follow or
Family's the
not.
protagonist. You either survive or you don't.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
happening. And sometimes it's a strange family member you haven't seen, you don't know why he's there. Or sometimes, someone might bring the wrong boyfriend to the to the party. And this happens everywhere. So this particular experience belongs to the writer, Ezequiel Martinez, who is a Chicano born and raised in East LA, and he pretty much writes about his experiences, his friends and family. So it's all authentic from that point of view. And all I did is now adapt it to these other actors who have similar experiences, while keeping the Chicano sort of overall atmosphere.
And I mean, there's so much stuff. I mean, I was so excited to have you on the show, Angel. Like I flew home to get on this Zoom with you because I really wanted to talk to you. And there's so much more we can talk about. I really want to talk about things like Creative Tank, your agency, and that does film, television work, and this and that. But
let's do a follow up because I'm sure we're on the clock, but we'll just do a sequel.
Yeah. We'll find each other on
Katrina.
social, social. Sometimes I find like with the guests and I start talking on social. Sorry about that, Katrina and Tatum over at Katrina One PR, who I love, and I've been working with them for years. But we'll find each other and we'll talk shop on filmmaking after this, but
Yeah, we can do one about the details and stuff that
love
that
it.
I
I
think a
want to
lot of
talk about.
people want to hear.
Well, the thing is, like, where'd you shoot the movie? Because clearly, as somebody who lives in Los Angeles, where you shoot the movie, I love you, man, but like East LA is such a specific place, but because of production, realities, it's not always easy to shoot there. So talk
Yeah.
about like adapting East LA to possibly a different location. What was the reality of that?
Well, I wish I had shot it in East LA. Now I shot in East LA, the driving shots, establishing shots, all
You
that
shoot
stuff.
some Beverly Hills. I've seen some. Yeah,
All that stuff, yeah.
yeah,
But the movie was shot in Jackson, Mississippi,
yeah.
which is just about like diametrically opposed.
I was gonna say Georgia because obviously there's a big pipeline in Georgia as well. But all those tax incentives, Geekscape has created a real like incentive in reality for filmmakers, and it's hard. Like you got to really bend with that stuff.
And let
Talk
me tell you,
about
you go to Jackson, Mississippi, you're gonna do Chicano stuff. You got your work cut out. Just trying to find a lowrider. They don't know how to spell lowrider in
they got
capital
the pickup
letters.
trucks. They're up high.
What the hell are you talking about, right? So our scout went on and he had to go to New Orleans where there was some club of lowriders, and they weren't the lowriders you used to, the expensive ones with the shiny paint and all that stuff. No. Their lowriders are a different kind of lowriders. And so I saw the pictures and there was like, no way, Jose. And then there was this thing.
There's no Jose. You're not talking to Jose.
John. And then there was this thing. Jim. And then there was this thing, and I'm going, wait a second, what is that? The one we used. And it was almost like there was no other choice, right? So this one was the only one to be had, but he also had a funny character to it. And since the Vatos are played not necessarily the dangerous tough guys that you would expect, but rather the opposite, then he kind of fit perfectly. But I would say I got lucky because we couldn't afford bringing one from East LA.
Yeah.
It's a very low budget movie shot in a limited time frame in a place where there's no lowriders or any of that Mexican culture of any kind, right? I was like on Amazon ordering stuff like Santa things. And I mean, I was like Amazon every day. We can't find that. We can't find this. We can do this. The Amazon guys coming in, with the boxes. They knew exactly where to go and drop the boxes.
This is such a real conversation. You know what I mean? If you just flipped it to Granada Hills, they got them everywhere. You know what I mean? Like,
it was really difficult. And then when I got back to LA, it's like, okay, now we're cutting. Let me see what I need. I need this transition, that shot, and all stuff. So, so I jump on a van and I go, let's go and grab these things. But they're like tiny crew grabbing shots, drive-bys, my own drone flying around. It's a low budget film. So we just made it that way. But the flexibility of I just can stand right here in this corner and shoot this thing and no one's going to bug me. So I shot East LA like a documentary. I just went and shot and launched the drone and had warnings on the device. Warning, you're getting too close to the police station or the jail or something or the other in downtown. And I just said, well, I might lose the drone in this one, but here we go. So I'm flying the drone above, downtown where you have, there's the police station, 20 helicopters, the jail, the penitentiary and other thing, and a bunch of electrical wires. So I'm just flying through all that stuff. It never got shut down. So those are the establishing shots.
And Angel is somebody who comes out of music videos because like I spent the 2000s. I did 2 music videos this year too. Like I love music videos. I love the being very specific with visuals, and you're shooting your own drone stuff. You're not just pulling this stuff off of like stock, right? It was really important to you to go out there and shoot that stuff and add that flavor back, because I'm guessing when you shoot Mississippi for East LA, you're conscious of having to like put some of that LA back into it, and you really want to be hands on with that stuff. Yeah. How important was it, and like what was your relationship with like your crew and your DP, where you're taking that music video background and you're like, okay, we got to put some of this spice back into it?
Yeah, well, I'm hands on because I'm a director DP, so I know exactly what I want.
Oh, hold on, you did the DP too?
No, I had a Broofy did the photography, but I have a built-in DP inside of me. Yeah, and then so basically, I know specifically what I need, and I back into the situation what I can or cannot do. In fact, this thing was shot on 2 Blackmagic Pro 6Ks, as opposed to the big Alexas and all that. Because I wanted small equipment I can have anywhere in any locations quickly. I wanted to have 2 of them. The crazy ant character. Carmen is shooting on an iPhone. That's my camera C.
Yeah,
And
I
then
shot a music video for a band down in South Central recently called the Paranoias, Mexican American boys, and I shot that all on iPhone 14. It looks great.
yeah, and
And you
then I
can push
use
it.
my Fujis. I got a couple of Fujis,
Mm-hmm.
XT3, XT4, and I shoot a lot of stuff on these cameras with the Ninja 5. So all the establishing shots are shot on Fujis and on a drone that is you can buy at Best Buy.
Yeah. And you got this. I mean, the one thing about the Black Magic Geekscape is we're really getting in the weeds. And man, I want Angel, you're coming back. We're going to talk film and we're going to talk about your
We're gonna
production
do a
company.
geek out on film.
We're going to geek
yes,
out. But I mean, I got I mean, were you deciding daylight a lot in this film, not just for the Christmas setting, but because those Black Magics, when they get into shadow and they get into some of that stuff, they're really like, they get temperamental, right? They fall off on the digital a lot. And I've done music videos with Black Magic, and we go around a corner to a shaded alley or something, and suddenly I'm like, whoa, we got to reset
it
a
doesn't
lot.
yes, you're like a under $2,000 camera, so your peaks and valleys are if you overexpose, that thing becomes just a white spot. So Da Vinci to the rescue, and After Effects. So,
for sure.
Yeah,
For
so
sure.
there's pluses and minuses. I don't know how I feel about it. I was a bit disappointed, like you say, but at the same time, I had 6K, so I was able to do a lot, right? So this is 4K. We ended up in 4K. With the 6K, I'm able to pan and scan and do a few more things. It's just that you need to have more control. If you're going to work with those cameras, you need to have more lighting power than I had to compensate and keep everything balanced out. So it actually ends up being more expensive. What you save in the camera, you end up spending in the equipment to compensate. So you don't get too hot. You stay within the range of your f-stop.
You're also racing the clock on the, like you said, you have a schedule to keep, and sometimes not having a
shot
big
the
build.
movie.
Yeah.
Guess how many days?
I'm gonna guess. I mean, for Mississippi, I'm gonna guess you shot it in 11 or 12.
You're a smart guy. You know what's up.
I've been doing this for a while.
That was 3 weeks, of which I lost 1 day in electrical storms, end of the world type thing. And I lost a bunch of time on and off because we had no power for one of the weeks, and it slows us down. So I think altogether we probably shot it in 13 days of actual shooting, plus a couple of weekends in East LA.
Of course. That's aggressive, man. That's super aggressive. And Geekscape is who think that filmmaking is all Marvel and filmmaking is all big studio stuff. Like, no, this is what we were fighting for in when we went on strike, is like, we're filmmakers. We're not going to be filmmakers. And it gets hard, and you're up against the realities of production, the reality of economics. Sometimes you got to shoot Mississippi for East LA, but
it's 110 degrees.
Well, East LA hit a couple 110 too, but it's muggy over there. It's like swampy 110 degrees.
The thing about those temperatures is that they're okay for a moment when you get in and out of the car, but not for 12 hours continuously under the sun when you're, say, on the soccer field.
Yeah.
I had never had people faint of heat exhaustion on any project in 30 years. I've had about 4 people fall to the ground on this one.
Brother, that gets scary.
Now, Lopez and I would joke. He would go, look at the white boys falling like flies. We're just working our tan.
I'm from Austen, and Austin gets like that. Austin, Texas. And Geekscape is to put in context just what a hilarious and awesome dude George is. George has a bunch of restaurants here in Los Angeles. And one of them was down by the airport, South Bay, somewhere in there. And these Chingon restaurants, that's kind of his brand. And a car went through a stop sign, and it was in the news. It was in the news, like a car goes into George Lopez's restaurant. Of course, it was in the news because he's a high-profile celebrity who has a restaurant. And so, of course, like, I send a message, be like, "Hey, George," my producer, like, "Hey, George, we just heard that like a car went into your restaurant, ran a stop sign. Like, is everything good? Like, everybody all right?" And he sends us back a message without skipping a beat. This message comes within 10 minutes. And it's a photo of a truck halfway sticking out of this restaurant. And he goes, "All good, just installed a drive-through."
Extremely quick on the draw. He was surprising me all the time. Like, even when he's off camera, so I'm shooting, over here with these characters, and he's there reading lines, and he'll just say crazy stuff. And I go, turn the camera, say that again. Like, I must get that on camera. You know, he always adds some banter at the end of each line.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, can you say that again? Let's grab that one. And then you're editing it. Damn, I got to choose between this one or that one. It's like when he tells Leif at the soccer field, hey, One Direction. And then another take, you're going to have to take off your braces for this one. And then get him a helmet. I mean, like, which one of those did you choose? Right. You know, it makes it difficult.
Well, Geekscape is, we're going to have Angel back. Angel or Angel? Come see this.
Angel,
Angelito.
Angle, you know.
Yeah.
I also answer to my social security number, last 4 digits.
We're not giving that out here on Geekscape, but we're going to have you back. All right.
Look forward to it. Let's do a geek out on movie making.
Let's do it. Geekscape, thanks for joining us here. And we'll talk to you soon next time, okay?
Muchas gracias.
También. Adiós.
Bye.